I think if I could just get a thumbs up that you can see the slides. All right, perfect. So let me make sure. Oops, no, I think I went back. No. Can you see the presentation? Did I hit the wrong? Oops, screen sharing. Let me make sure. Brooke, can you tell me if that's
I can't see
good?
it now.
Okay, you can't. What'd I do? Well, there you go. Technical difficulties right off the bat. You can't see it, the screen at all?
No.
Okay, let me.
It was just a minute ago when you asked the
I hit
question.
something.
Oh,
What? Of course.
okay,
Okay.
this is the first view that shows your notes.
Okay, that's fine. I can switch it out, I think.
Split
Yeah,
screen now. Up there you go. That's
there
right.
we go. Okay, I won't touch it. I'm just going to move on. Well, thank you all. And thank you so much, Brooke and Katie, for inviting me to present tonight. Again, with my bio, it sounds like I have, one, it makes me feel old. It sounds like I've been in and out of this industry for numerous years, which is true. It's I wore a few hats, and this position that I hold with the department has been one of just great opportunities, and meeting people like Brooke and Katie have just been one of the better benefits. And so tonight I will be presenting on just what you need to know with financial aid. And with my experience, as well as with other colleagues of mine, partnerships that we have with community organizations, other associations, I have been able to share the information that we're going to go through tonight. So I kind of just want to go through, and I did want to make note before I forget, some of the information that I'll share has some PDFs or some links for you to check out at a later time with more detailed information. So I'll be putting those in the chat throughout the evening for you to grab if you need. But basically, we're going to talk about just some financial aid 101 information, some resources on that once the decision of going to college, or and I should say the decisions of going to college, the planning and paying, that's kind of one of my catchphrases. We're going to kind of focus more on the resources of paying for college. So we go through that. And then there's another application besides the admissions application that we feel that is real important when you're looking at paying for college, is the FAFSA application, and that's the pre-application for federal student aid. So I'm going to kind of go through that one as well. And I understand we only have an hour, so some of this will seem like we go through it quickly, but again, at the end of the presentation, I'll have some resources so you can go into more detail on your own, or you'll have my contact information if you want some additional help that way. So what is financial aid? I kind of just sum it up similar to what the slide says. It's just monies that you need to come up with to help pay for those expenses as you proceed to college, or your education after high school. So any kind of funding is considered financial aid. I know that that's kind of a broad explanation, but from my experience on the financial aid office side in the past, it is counted. Any monies that is contributed toward education is considered financial aid. So that's the definition in a nutshell. We go through what's considered the cost of attendance. This is how institutions kind of determine the charges, the expenses that you'll endure as a student or as a parent when you choose to go to college. So the cost of attendance is built from two different costs, and I love this slide because it kind of just details the direct and indirect costs that you'll have. The two big ones, of course, is tuition and fees, and then the room and board if you are going to stay on campus. And even if you're off campus, just finding your housing otherwise. So those are two of the biggest direct costs that you'll have. And as an institution, they're going to be pretty, it may depend if you have a roommate or if you have a single room or something like that, but those are the two bigger direct costs that they have under this cost of attendance definition. Then you also have your indirect costs, which is your books and supplies, transportation. I do make note with transportation that this is something that may be a little different if you're commuting to the college or if you are using public transit. Those costs may vary. And I say this because just from experience, some people, especially students and other parents, we kind of talk to each other and we discuss different figures, and well, your cost sounds a little less than mine, or yours sounds a lot more. So there are different charges and expenses that are individually based. So that's where we come up with the indirect cost. And miscellaneous personal expenses, this is where I would just like to point out that one of the tips that we kind of share with students is talk to other friends, cousins, or those that you know that are in college now, and just kind of get an estimate of what miscellaneous personal expenses may be, and have that in mind when you look over the cost of attendance and the expenses that you're going to be facing. So, and then just to notate, every college is different, or every university, post-secondary school is going to be different in what they have as their cost of attendance. And then you can see that you do have an option if you are needing to discuss the cost of attendance at the school, to look at either having different considerations. If you have special circumstances or something, you can talk to them about that cost of attendance and see if there's any adjustments that can be made. So don't feel like that's something out of the ordinary to ask them. If that's a situation that you're facing, please do so. And they are aware of that. That is something that's not new. They've done that. The offices are well prepared and trained and experienced to work with you on those. And just as it's here in the slide, just make sure that you're aware that you'll have documentation to back up that request. When we talk about cost of attendance, there is another component, and it's kind of new, a new term that we have. It's called the student aid index. So I kind of want to go through that here a little bit with you. I also wanted to make sure that when you are discussing your payment plans with the college that you choose to go to, or your child chooses to go to, that you just you're aware of the terminology and things. So the payment plans are set most of the time on the school's website, or after you get your initial award letter, you'll look at the cost of attendance, and there may be options for payment plans and things like that. But usually the post-secondary institutions, BUSAR office or financial aid office, will be the ones that you go to make adjustments or to customize a payment plan. But the student aid, back to the student aid index, it stands for, well, SAI is what student aid index is, sorry, but it is not what you need to pay out of pocket. And I guess I should backtrack. It's a new terminology, so if you're familiar with other children or the previous FAFSA's jargon, it used to be called what's referred to as the expected family contribution. From here on out, it's referred to as the student aid index. And it is, again, not something that, it's not a figure or a monetary amount that you are required to pay out of pocket. It is just, like it says here, a measurement to help the schools and for you to calculate and gauge your ability to contribute to the educational expenses. So they do have kind of a formula that helps determine a financial need, and the student aid index is part of that formula. And again, we're going to kind of go through the FAFSA, but the results of the FAFSA generate this measurement, this student aid index number. So that's kind of where that comes from, is from the FAFSA. So I just kind of want to let you see that that calculation and how the cost of attendance comes into play, as well as the student aid index. And then as you see at the bottom of the slide, it says other financial assistance. That's going to be scholarships. Maybe you get some additional funding from a parent or from a grandparent, or any other financial aid is considered other financial assistance. And then they determine what's called a financial need. And that is just where they see that, okay, the cost and the other assistance, the student aid index isn't covering everything that they need. So there is what's considered financial need. And then we kind of have where the financial need resources come. So you have a financial need or you don't based on the FAFSA, but there are going to be types of monies that come from different categories. There's different types. So I kind of want to go through that with you as well. The need-based component, so there's pretty much need-based aid and then non-need-based aid. So need-based aid is determined mainly from the FAFSA, or you might fill out what's called a college scholarship services profile, a CSS profile. But both of those applications will determine based on a financial component, like your income, assets, and other factors to determine if you qualify for need-based aid or non-need-based aid. Non-need-based aid is funding or funds that are awarded regardless of need or financial circumstances. So that could be your merit-based aid, your athletic, your skill awards, and so forth. In those non-need-based aid categories. Sorry, I just seen my chat pop up, so I wanted to make sure. So those are the categories. Then there's the types of aid, and I kind of want to go through those as well in case. There's the self-help aid, which we go through as your student loans or your Parent Plus loans, and your work study employment is a self-help aid. And I'm going to kind of go through those a little more in detail as well. But then you also have the other types of aid, which is called gift aid. And gift aid is pretty much categorized under the scholarship and grants definitions. Oops. Let's see. So where does all the money come from for financial aid? It's usually under these 5 categories: your federal government, your state programs, and tonight I'll go through what Missouri grants and scholarships, what we can offer here in the state of Missouri. But there's also what's called institutional aid, and that comes from colleges and universities. And then there's the private sources and employers are kind of the categories or the sources that will give you that extra funding to help with that financial need if you need. So the federal side, the federal money, this is coming from the federal government under, and I want to kind of go through what they offer. So there's the federal Pell Grant, the federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant, which is referred to the SEOG. Those are the 2 top grants, and I believe, I don't have the figures, the monetary amounts, but if you're interested in what this year's awards are, I can get those and put those in the chat in just a little bit. But both are considered need grants. The student aid index does drive the amount of Pell a student can receive. So not everyone qualifies for a full Pell Grant. There is a maximum and a minimum award, and then there's those in between. So there is a variety of dollar amounts when considering the federal Pell and SEOG. Then there's the student loans, the Stafford loans, the subsidized loan, or Stafford loans, the federal direct loan, excuse me. That was a slip from almost 2 decades ago. So it's the federal direct loans that a student and a parent can qualify for. So there's the subsidized loan, and that's where the interest on that loan is not accrued while the student is in school, or at least half-time student. Then there's the unsubsidized loan, and that's a little different. It does accrue the interest. So if you qualify for just unsub, you would need to decide if you want to pay the interest while you're in school or have it accrue. And then there's the Parent Plus loan, and that is a loan that parents can borrow on behalf of the student. It is the parent's responsibility as repayment occurs, but it is on behalf of the student's cost of attendance. And And then there's the student employment, and that is where the student will get an award, not a lump sum award. It is an employment opportunity for the student to work on campus and sometimes off campus to earn a salary or a wage, not a salary, a wage while they're going to school. Most of the time, the employment is on campus. They'll get an assignment from the federal work study coordinator at that campus, and they'll adjust their class or their work schedule based on their class schedule and so forth. And then they'll get a monthly paycheck, and they can use that toward their college tuition or expenses. And I'm going to just kind of go through again. I'll provide some resources with even more detail on the federal and state programs, especially if you're interested in the monetary amounts. I know our websites have the information for you to look at as well. But regarding the Missouri grants and scholarships, this is probably the three most popular ones. I do want to make note that all of our Missouri grants and scholarships, you do have to be attending a Missouri college. So these aren't across state lines eligible awards. So they do require the student to stay in Missouri and attend a Missouri post-secondary school. And as you can see, I notated that these are renewable as long as they meet the qualifications each year. So Access Missouri, right now, it's you can qualify up to $2,850 for the year, and it is a need-based component. So we do look at the student aid index of 12,000 or less. And so therefore you have to submit and complete a FAFSA for consideration for that award. And you can see the deadlines for those programs, or for those awards as well. The A-plus program is, it has some additional requirements that they are required to do while they're in high school. This is where you would want to, if your student is participating in the A-plus program, you just want to make sure that you are aware that this is the last dollar scholarship for community colleges. And just a note on that when you're considering the other aid that your child or you are receiving, that you know that is how that award is calculated at the school. And then we have the Bright Flight Merit Scholarship that is up to $3,000 and based on an ACT score of 31 or higher for this year. And I'm going to move quite a little bit quicker. I see my time. The institutional scholarships, now this is where the colleges and universities have their funding and are able to award the student money from their funds. And I do want to, I kind of made some notes on this side that you want to make sure that they, if you do get an institutional award, that you ask them, sorry, I just put the wrong notes on. This is for the private scholarships, so skip that. I'll get to that. The admissions application can be a scholarship application. So you would kind of want to make note of what schools you're attending and what awards and scholarships that they have. Most of them have their scholarship applications on their web, or on their website, but just make sure that you know if there is additional paperwork to do, that you do that. So just don't get confused if other schools, one school asks for additional information for their actual scholarship. And just, again, deadlines, I can reiterate that over and over, but just make sure you know that there are different deadlines for different colleges. Some of them are coming up quick. As soon as November 1 hits, a lot of deadlines are approaching after that. But just be sure, the other thing I kind of wanted to note on this was that just from my experience, that you might feel like all of the institutional college monies are just for those freshmen entering in their first semester or first year at their colleges. Just be aware that, some departments have their own scholarships for their upperclassmen. There are situations where students may get an award their freshman year and then not maintain the GPA, not qualify for it for that second term or that second year. So you as a parent or a student, you want to go to those financial aid offices and just make sure, make yourself known that, hey, are there any scholarships for me or that have come open in mid-year or something? That it does happen. It's not often, but it does occur, and it just doesn't hurt you to make note of that throughout your sophomore, junior, senior years. So I kind of wanted to add that to this slide. And then your private scholarships, again, this is just where you're looking at organizations, foundations, your churches, charitable organizations. I think it's important to note that just looking around, even they don't, just your local newspapers, your social media and stuff, things are coming out even as we speak, just with upcoming scholarships that our communities provide. And you have employers that offer scholarships on behalf of their employee. It might be a employee dependent scholarship. They might offer it in what's called an educational benefit. So look at your employer's website if you're not familiar. They may have something that you're not aware of that's out there. And again, you might want to keep just track of the ones that had different deadlines. I do have a resource that I'll refer to just with keeping like a folder or a calendar of deadlines and things when you are getting ready to apply for the scholarships and the differences of who's offering what and when. Let's see. So this is just came and was developed by an organization that we partner with. They're called Mapping Your Future, and they have provided some great resources and tips for scholarship success. And I won't go through each one, but just, and we're going to provide this resource for you to take, and you can print it off if you'd like, or refer to it at a later time. But some of the highlights on this top 10 is just being successful with looking for scholarships and making yourself a resume of, if it's you going to college or if it's a parent tonight, that just making a resume of, going back from your senior year, what did you do, in the last 2 to 3 years, kind of a bio of yourself, your accomplishments, your interests, your hobbies, something unique about yourself. Kind of start writing that bio is kind of how I refer to it, and just have that on hand to start developing those essays and information for yourself. Start early, start as soon as you can in getting this developed. And the earlier you start, the just easier and at ease you will feel getting this going and finishing it. But what else? And then just also, if you have references, or if you need references, or if you just make sure you give those people ample time to prepare and develop a reference for you. I'm trying to think if I had anything else. Let's see. And then I know this is hard for all of us, or most of us, just kind of developing why you deserve the award, or why do you think you should be awarded this scholarship. Kind of make some notes in your essay or your application. And if you can't think of it yourself, ask someone to, a family member, a friend, a teacher, a counselor, to kind of help you get that ball rolling. But again, kind of make some points in your essay about why you want it, why you deserve it, and just get those thoughts going as you go through this with scholarships. Let's see. And then they've provided on the back of that publication just some scholarship entities that we also refer to, 2 of them that we use on our website when we promote scholarship portals is MyScholarly and FastWeb. College Board has one. big future, but they also provide some information on just making sure that you're not getting scammed. And I think that's one important thing to look out for. So I will provide this PDF in the chat after I'm finished here. And then the other slide that they provided, which I felt like that we share when we do our financial aid nights, is just this scholarship strategies. And again, just planning ahead, knowing who you're applying to, keeping track of this information. They actually have what's called a scholarship tracking sheet, which I like. I know just doing everything online, just having a nice spreadsheet to keep track of things, especially if you're interested in applying in numerous scholarships and things like that. So I kind of like providing this screenshot of their strategies for you. So I'll get that in the chat here. Real quickly, I just kind of want to go over the FAFSA. And again, collecting demographic and financial information is pretty much what the FAFSA is collecting. So if you're curious of what's in there, that's what they're going to be asking you, is your demographic, the child and the child's household. So the parents, the siblings, the demographic, again, information is going to be in there. And then the financial aid or financial information, the taxes, the assets, and things like that are going to be included when you submit your FAFSA. They have made it a lot easier with the data retrieval. It's DDX, and now I can't think of, I just drew a blank on that. But you can download, or after you open the FAFSA and you fill out your demographic information, the financial information is basically some tax information, which you can download from the IRS quickly. So it's becoming easier to get this application done and submitted. Last year we had some big snafus, but we're encouraged by the delay this year. May not be encouraging to you, but it's just encouraging that they're fixing these issues that they had last year. So we're hoping that it will be ready and up as December 1st approaches. So the first thing that you will need to do, and something that you can do now, is your FSA ID. So this is kind of just your signature, your allowance of the IRS information to get downloaded on the FAFSA. So you need this FSA ID. Both a student and parents need the FSA ID. And you can kind of see here, you cannot create the FSA ID and submit the FAFSA on the same day. So we're just encouraging you from October to December to get this FSA ID created as soon as you can. And then this is just some more information about the FAFSA and just what it will look like when you go there if you don't have the account set up, how to set that account and FSA ID up. So a quick snapshot of what you need to complete the FAFSA. I just kind of want to get you prepared on the documents if you aren't aware of what you'll need to complete the FAFSA, and that again is the FSA ID. You are allowed to list up to 20 colleges on the FAFSA, and why you list those colleges is because that FAFSA result gets electronically submitted to those colleges that you list on the application. So have those in mind. You do have a search option when you fill out the FAFSA to look up the colleges as well, but you might want to have a list of them so you don't forget to get them on there. And again, once your FAFSA is submitted, the schools get the information as well as the state gets the information, and then we kind of do our behind the scenes stuff and start calculating the financial awards based on those FAFSA results. But with, again, some additional information that you want to make sure you have on hand for the FAFSA is your 2023 tax returns for both, for all contributors. Asset information is collected as well, and you can kind of see the listings here, the net worth of investments, business farms, any kind of federal benefits that you receive, and child support received from the prior year, from last year. And then just real quick, what you can do, like I just said, from October till December, please try to get your FSA ID set up if you haven't done so already. Start applying for admissions and look at their college or their scholarship information on their websites. Get that ball rolling if you haven't already. It is already October, so some deadlines are already getting here, if not soon. And then again, collect those documents for the FAFSA. My name is Kim Howe, and you can find my email right at the bottom of this slide. And I will again plug all those PDFs into the chat if we haven't done so already. And then the last slide I have is just some kudos to those colleagues and partners that we work with in providing some resources. So the other takeaway I want you, I guess, from my spiel tonight would be to just know that there's help out there and there's resources, not just Googling something, but just some one-on-one help. These are just kind of a snapshot of partners and collaborators who are here for you and that do a great job. So again, thank you for participating tonight, and I appreciate your attention. And I think now I'll hand it over to Robert. Oh, I forgot. I gotta stop sharing.
No, you're fine. Okay.
Oh,
yes, you're good. And he's in, and Robert also is a co-host, so he'll be able to share here in a moment. Thank you so much, Kim. Every time I hear you speak, I learn something new. So I really am thankful for that. And you just really did an excellent job presenting like 5 hours worth of information in a very short amount of time.
I appreciate you saying that, because I did have to bounce off some. I'm like, okay, what slides can I say? And Robert, I'm hoping I did not rush you at all, but I do think I could talk for hours. So I appreciate you understanding that.
No, I think you did an excellent job. And there are some questions in the chat we'll capture at the end. Okay. I will transition over now to Sergeant First Class Robert Chisenhall, and he's going to share some just a different lens of financial resources and assistance that our National Guard and other military entities can provide, and then we'll open up to questions the last 7 minutes or so, and we will put links to everything that you shared, not only in the chat but again in a follow-up email for everybody who registered for this call. Okay, take it away, Robert. Thank you.
Well, hopefully everybody can see my screen there. Hi, I'm Robert. Walking through some benefits. If you're a veteran and you have specific questions about your GI Bill and how it transferred over to your child, or you need assistance with that, that is an entirely different lane that I'm not going to jump on tonight. So if that's you, feel free to send me an email, call. I'm happy to help you with that process with the VA. It's just a different lens. This is kind of just a walk through an overview of the different military benefits for those that are considering enlistment, looking at enlistment, exploring ROTC. Just kind of a quick overview, as I know there's a lot of questions about that when students come home and say, I talked to the Marines and I don't, they say don't pay for college. So this is how that process works for all branches and components. Just kind of a fast overview. I will try to be brief. As with all college things, it's a little complicated. Let's see, go move for me. There we go. All right, so bottom lines up front.
Hey, Robert, forgive me. I am so sorry to interrupt you. It's sounding like you're a little grainy. I don't know. It's like you're kind of going in and out. So I don't know if you just need to move a little closer to the microphone or what. I apologize for interrupting your flow there.
No, you're good. I appreciate knowing. My bandwidth seems to be going in and out. So
I can hear you perfectly now. Stay right. Don't move. Okay. You're just going to have to be a statue for the next several minutes. Okay.
Oh, it's fine. No worries. So what you need to know as a quick overview is that every branch of service is going to receive some sort of education benefit. I like to say that each service member gets different ladles of money, and they get to use different pots of money depending on where they serve. So all branches, all components are going to receive some education incentives and benefits, and I'll walk you through each one. The first thing that you should know that there are 3 different classifications or components to every service branch. Your active duty service members are those that choose to serve full-time. Your 24/7, 365 kind of guys. They are going to receive federal tuition assistance of $4,000 annually to any school or program. Typically, what I tell soldiers that are doing full-time service is that you are a full-time service member and a part-time student, so your benefits reflect that. $4,000 a year is not a lot of money, but if you're a part-time student, it can be more than sufficient to take a few classes at a time. You also are going to receive your veteran benefit, which is a GI Bill. Your GI Bill total dollar is actually a payment that the service member receives directly. Many people think of the GI Bill as something that you have to use after you start, like after you finish your service. You can actually use it the moment that you begin school, and it's a direct payment that comes to you. It is supposed to be the service member who uses that benefit to pay back the school. At the completion of service, when a service member becomes a full veteran and they're no longer serving, that GI Bill is worth more money. And often the post-9/11 GI Bill is what many people think about when they think of the GI Bill. That education benefit is to pay after you finish service and pays direct to you and is usually worth more. There is a distinction there. It's basically called the Montgomery GI Bill or the post-9/11. Both are different. Federal reservists are part-time service members. They receive federal benefits. These are your Army Reserves, Marine Reserves, Naval Reserves. They're also going to receive their federal tuition assistance and their GI Bill. That is needs to be updated. The GI Bill just went up. It is $463 a month for 36 months as soon as you complete training. So if a service member enlists and they join a reserve component and come home, they'll receive federal tuition assistance and they'll get a payment each month of $463. And I'll send all these slides out that kind of outline. I'm not going to dive on the grenade of differences in components and the details of that too much. But these slides kind of show that off. Last is this weird thing called the National Guard. I think I've spent my entire 10 years in the recruiting field explaining what the National Guard does and how it works. To sum it up, we are still a part-time component. We serve the state and the federal government, which means that we get an extra pot of money for tuition assistance to go to school. We get a state tuition assistance benefit. It pays out $12,000, a little more than 12 grand annually each year. Broken apart, that's $6,000 a semester, obviously, in addition to your federal tuition assistance, in addition to that GI Bill. So you get to use all 3. These benefits are specific to state schools. So if you join the National Guard and are planning to attend a state school, you'll receive your state tuition assistance. If you were to live in Missouri and join the Missouri National Guard and go to SIUE, you would not be able to collect state tuition assistance and apply it. You would only be able to use your federal and veteran benefits. So kind of a big deal. Those are your 4 pots of money. So your Montgomery GI Bill and GI Bill kicker, these are still veteran benefits. This is something that applies for your veteran for your reserve active duty. You can apply this right away as a Montgomery GI Bill or post 9/11. If you're currently serving, you have the ability to use your GI Bill kicker. It's a big fancy word for please go to school while you're in service, and the Army or the service branch will give you an additional amount of money called a kicker. They're still coming out of the same pot of money. Right now, a kicker is at $350 additional to your already used GI Bill. So it's extra money, usually as an incentive. So if you hear that word, GI Bill kicker, just know it means that you've qualified for something additional. Whatever branch of service you contract with, they should be able to explain that in detail and what the requirements are to get it. It's kind of like bonus money. This kind of outlines the dollars and cents and more of the fine print. The state tuition assistance from the Guard is only eligible for 15 hours a semester. The same is true for federal TA. You're going to get $364 a credit hour, which was Mizzou's rate. They've changed. So the tuition assistance has not kept up with the growing cost at Mizzou. they will pay 15 hours a semester. Many students choose to take more than that. The tuition assistance from the military will only cover 15 hours. Federal tuition assistance is lower. It's $250 per credit hour. Again, this is typically for your part-time student. You do have to use these two assistance programs together. They have to be used at the same time whenever you go to school. So if you're a full-time student and a part-time service member, you would need to use both of these at the same time. You have to apply to your federal tuition assistance and state tuition assistance together. State tuition will deny you if you do not use federal tuition first. This is your GI Bill and the kicker. Again, they're the same pot of money. Something to note, this pays directly to the student, to the service member. Those numbers add up. So if you get the incentive with a kicker on it, you're getting extra money. This is something that, again, pays the student to go to school. So when that recruiter tells you, we're going to pay you to go to college, they're not lying to the student. That is a benefit. They will get paid directly. However, that payment doesn't mean that they're not going to have other bills. As Kim's outlined earlier, there are additional costs. All of these payment programs are direct. The GI Bill pays directly, but everything else is a tuition only. So it does not apply to room and board. It's not going to pay for books. It just applies to the school. So I work at Lindenwood. It is a common complaint to my service members that they have their tuition and their tuition may be covered, but if they're living on campus, they have an additional balance incurred at the school. That monthly payment typically from your GI Bill is not going to cover the full balance. Often your service member uses that for computers, board, food, stuff like that. But it is tax-free. It's not something they have to pay taxes on later. They don't have to claim it as income. It is a benefit for them. So, pretty nice. ROTC, I think this is the second most asked question is how ROTC works. ROTC is a direct scholarship program. They offer 4, 3, and 2-year scholarships. Those scholarships can be applied for housing or tuition or both, depending on the type of scholarship you have. You can be a member of one of the reserve components and still compete for ROTC scholarships. So if your student joins the National Guard or the Army Reserve or something of that nature while they're still in high school, they can apply to ROTC still. It is important that they apply to the ROTC that is congruent with their branch. So if you enlist in the Army and then try and join a naval ROTC, they typically won't take you. They may accept you, but you'll have to do a lot of fancy work to get out of one contract to the next, and it can be very painful. These scholarships are very competitive. They typically value leadership, and they're going off your GPA requirements. You do not necessarily have to take the ACT or the ASVAB to compete on an ROTC scholarship. They do take in consideration primarily your GPA, but at the end of an ROTC program, if you accept the scholarship, you will still incur a military obligation. Typically, the easiest way to think about it is as long as you are in school on an ROTC scholarship is as long as your military commitment will be. An example, I enlist in the Army, or I join the Army ROTC at Lindenwood. I get a scholarship from them for 4 years. When I complete my degree, I will be an officer, but I have to serve for at least 4 years. Some scholarships require a longer commitment. If you want to go on to the JAG programs or you want to do a medical program, law, any of that stuff, you can continue to use ROTC to pay for those things up to $250,000 for med school or law school, but you will have to serve the equivalent number of years that the Army chooses to pay. So there will be a question about this, I'm confident. Contracts. Everybody has to sign a contract when they want to do any of these programs to use these benefits. The military wants you to be educated. They will pay you, but they expect you to serve in order to receive the benefits. No benefits without some service and service to country. So typically your Army and your National Guard and reservists are going to do a 6-year commitment. Active duty has what's called a 4x4 commitment, 4 years of active service and 4 years of inactive service. It gets kind of fancy when we talk about inactive things. I'm not going to dive on that one either. know that most service members are going to serve for a period of 4 or 6 years, whether that be full-time or 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks every summer. Contract start dates are important to pay attention to as your child, if they want to serve. It's important to ask those recruiters what their specific branch or component, what their start dates are to their contracts. Delayed entry programs don't always mean the start of a contract, especially with the Marines. It's important to ask those questions and understand what those obligations are before you commit. Those are your standard qualifications. Physically healthy and free of felonies are typically the two big things. Know that a lot of reserve programs will apply for students in there as early as junior year of high school. If you have seniors right now or those that are going to graduate early, they can actually enlist before they graduate, and begin processing and getting prepared with these tuition programs. Just like other scholarships, all scholarships, like Kim outlined, have deadlines. The Army is no different. They require that you file on time in advance. So federal tuition assistance must be applied 10 days before the start of classes and requires a certified degree plan from the university or school that you want to attend. So there are deadlines. Just because you've enlisted, you are not automatically going to receive them. You have to ask Uncle Sam to give it to you. I feel like there was an important piece of that I was going to mention and I've forgotten. Veteran benefits and GI Bill have a separate system. If you are giving away a GI Bill or you're applying to receive your own GI Bill, you have to apply before the start of term. And that's done through the VA. So you have your state tuition assistance pot of money, your federal tuition pot, and your veteran pots of money. But at the end of the day, service will pay for school. It's an important piece to our growth and development for our careers in the military. Anybody that is considering any branch of service I'm happy to talk to them or refer them out to any of my colleagues. So that's all I have for now, unless there are questions in the chat I missed.
Thank you, Robert. And I've discovered that if I unmuted, you are not garbled anymore. So if you heard any background noise, I tried to be as silent as a mouse, but as soon as I would mute, you would be garbled. And as soon as I unmute it, you'd be fine. Isn't that weird? I learned a ton. I did not know. Every time, for some reason, the military to me is this like enigma. And I just feel like you explain it in such a very practical way. And, I know you've been coming to our college fairs the last several years and it's just been a great resource. So for our district, so very grateful for your time and your expertise. And I need to start learning this stuff and really getting it down to memory, because I do believe I have a child in middle school right now who's pretty adamant he wants to enlist. So excellent benefits and an amazing opportunity for students who do have a passion to serve and know that they are wanting or desiring to offset some of those higher ed expenses, which are expensive, as we all know. Let me check the chat, and Brooke, feel free to unmute too and help me out here if I'm missing anything. But I know that there was a specific question about, here's the first one that I can see. Do you only apply for scholarships for the upcoming year? And it looks like, Brooke, maybe you've already answered it, but do you only apply for scholarships for the upcoming year? Example, seniors for this year apply for 25-26 and wouldn't apply for 26-27 until next fall. And for those who are curious to know that answer, Brooke did say, yes, you apply for most scholarships the same year you apply for college. Most scholarships will be high school seniors, and the biggest scholarships typically come from the college. And those scholarships are usually renewable. Brooke always encourages seniors to apply to their colleges first and then look for scholarships offered by the college. And I would say that our other two college and career counselors, Dustin Bailey at Howell Central and Jen Lowry at Howell High, do the same, provide the same advice. We had another person ask about a central listing of different various private scholarships, to which I replied, we do post, or I'm sorry, Scholarship Central is an amazing local website for regional scholarships in our area. I would encourage you to just Google Scholarship Central or have your child do that. That's a very centralized place for some of those local scholarships that may not be immense in dollar amount, but are really low hanging fruit because oftentimes some of them might be national, but a lot of them are just, again, for our region. And so you have fewer people in the applicant pool. Brooke, I can see you've unmuted.
I was just going to add the My Scholarship Central. It's also linked on, I posted the district college and career website where we post scholarships, and that My Scholarship Central website is listed there, but that is only for high school seniors or current college students. So it's not something, and I don't know if it's an underclassman that was asking, but it would not be something a junior, sophomore, or freshman would start because it doesn't roll over.
Very good. We did have a question about the FAFSA being delayed again, like it was last year. Much to our chagrin, the answer is yes, it is delayed. It is set to open December 1st. And we as a district have moved our FAFSA frenzy, which is essentially our evening that we open up the Learning Commons at one of our high schools to invite people in to help firsthand with FAFSA. Kim will likely be there. We usually have other people from other organizations that she mentioned tonight, experts helping parents and kids log into computers and work on the FAFSA. So many of them walk away with it completed. So it's really a great troubleshooting session, and we have moved that date to December 5th, Thursday evening at Howell High. And I will share that link in our follow-up email to you to register if you haven't registered already. And I know that Brooke, Jen, and Dustin at each of the campuses are pushing that date out. If for whatever reason we get information from the state that the FAFSA will not open on December 1st, that it gets moved to a later date, and we have to reschedule the FAFSA frenzy again, we will alert everybody that has registered and we'll send out that new date. There was a question about twins. How are twin kids treated by the FAFSA? Kim?
Well, oddly, I am a twin, and it definitely has changed since I've submitted a FAFSA. And to be honest, it just changed last year how multiple dependents are to fill out the FAFSA. So with twins, or if you have a multiple dependents, like I said, so both of them will have to have their own separate FSA ID, and you as a parent will have your own FSA ID. So it's going to be two separate applications. So twin A will, through their FSA ID, will complete their portion of the FAFSA, and then they'll invite you as the parent to fill out the FAFSA. Then twin B has to do the same with their individual FSA ID. In the past, it used to be able to say, I have another dependent, and you could transfer your information that way, but this is not going to be the situation anymore for that. So you'll receive separate invitations by both twins. I hope that makes sense. Does that, and you're going to be required to do that for each one. Your parent section will be filled out separately for each one. Is that clear as mud? I'm sorry. Does that help? Hopefully. Can you hear me? Okay. So,
it made sense to me.
Okay. And just so you know, there used to be a different calculation with multiple dependents on the FAFSA. I'm not as clear on how the calculations, the behind the scenes, the formula did change a little bit. So the eligibility award may be a little different as well than what it was in the past, but you definitely kind of have to, it's definitely a separate application. It's just like an individual one that you'll have to do for each child. So. Is there something? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was muted. Was I muted?
Okay, sorry.
I was muted. That was me. Thank you, Kim. The parent says
Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
Yes,
okay, good.
it helped. We have another parent. I know we're at 7:30, but I do want to do due diligence here quickly. My employer will pay a portion of my children's tuition. Are there scholarships that will assist or cover room and board, or can scholarships be allocated towards room and board?
I was actually just answering that, Katie, and you can correct me, Kim, if I'm wrong, but I would say a lot of scholarships can be used towards any expenses for that student, and it just really depends on the scholarship sponsor, how they award that money. So often they will send it to the college, like in the name of the student, and it goes into that account for the student. But some colleges will even, if there's extra money left over, they might give the student kind of like a debit card or something like that to use. So it totally depends on the scholarship sponsor, but often it can be used for both direct costs, which could include room and board, or indirect costs like cost of living expenses. But correct me if I'm wrong on any of that, Kim.
No, that's exactly right. And that my role as scholarship coordinator in the past at a four-year institution, if there was a question or if there was a definition from the scholarship provider that said it's going to go clearly or specifically toward tuition only, and your tuition was already paid, we would, as well as the student, we would encourage the scholarship provider to change that definition and to reward it if that was the situation. But you're exactly right, Brooke. Most of the time it just, it's written to the school and to the student for any expenses.
Awesome. The December 5th FAFSA frenzy, if somebody wanted to come to that, would that require parents to have the FSA ID created no later than December 1st? I'm thinking yes.
I would say it can take like 3 days. Is that correct still? To have that FSA ID verified. So I would do it even earlier than that. And we usually do send out a kind of a reminder with that registration for families that have signed up for it to make sure you guys do have that FSA ID, so that way you actually can complete the FAFSA while you're there at the event. There was also another question about FSA ID creating that early as a junior, and you can create it early. I would just make sure you remember where you put it, so that way you can access it senior year, because you won't use it until you're doing the FAFSA senior year. So as long as you're good at keeping track of that username and password, yes, you could have it done early if you want to. I'm terrible at remembering my username and password. So
I know, me too, and it drives my husband crazy because I'm very hackable. I'll just say that. So there you go, everybody on the call. Go ahead, hack me, and you can have all my student debt. How about that? That's all I really have to my name. Okay, so if I have a FAFSA form from when I went to school 15 years ago, is that my parent number now?
No, they'll have to. So you'll need to create your FSID account again. I guess it will not be the same. They have kind of wiped those out. If you've had loans and stuff before, if you're still paying on a student loan, there could be an alert that says you have an account, but most likely you're going to have to recreate your FSA ID. It was personal identification number.
It was a PIN number.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you had a PIN number, you would need to recreate an FSA ID. But if you've created an FSA ID recently, how long has it been an FSA ID? 5, 10 years?
I think 7 years.
Okay.
I think it's been 7.
Yeah, then you wouldn't create a new one. But if you had a PIN number, you would now need to create an FSA ID.
Okay, and then one more question about the FAFSA and the IDs. Do both parents need to fill in details on the FAFSA form for each student, or in other words, or rather create a FAFSA account ID? So does each parent need an FSA ID, a FAFSA ID? I think that's what the parent's asking.
So we do have a list or a kind of a demographic that I use. It does depend who is a contributor and how that goes about if the parents are married, both biological parents are married, only one has to be the contributor. Only one has to have an FSA ID. If they're, I believe if they're living together but not married, they both would need, I believe they both need to be contributors. So I'm going to have to look at my chart, but, and then if it's a situation of divorced parents, it would be who's provided the most financial support in the prior year, and that parent, and if they have a spouse, both that parent and spouse will need FSA ID and are contributors. Am I saying that right, Katie and Brooke? Did I might have to, I have
that sounded right to me.
A
Brooke
cheat sheet.
No, it is, well, they make it so, just so easy.
Yes,
user friendly. I think Brooke probably can answer better than I can, but that sounded right to me.
Sorry, I was also responding to a question on the chat, so I was kind of half listening to your response, but can you sum up again what you...
Well, I think who a contributor would be, and I'll put in the chat the link. We have a nice demographic that kind of a flow chart that just explains who needs to an FSA ID and who isn't. So I'll do that as well. But Brooke, if you want to.
Yeah, and send that to me too, either like PNG or PDF. And when I send out the, I've already got a running list of things that I'm going to send in the follow-up email. So I'll just say, I'm adding it right now, contributor flow chart. So if you'll send that to me, you can put it in the chat, but I'll also make sure all the parents have it. So it's a very convoluted answer, but because I just feel like the FAFSA is a very convoluted process. So the answer is maybe you will both have to complete FSA IDs. Sure. It really just depends on your marital status and your living situation.
Married and filed jointly, I think it's only one parent has to create that FSA ID. Yes. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, married and yes, and filing jointly. I know that's for sure. Yes, only one FSA ID. Can anyone comment on the delay? And I know, Brooke, you were just answering this, how the delay with the FAFSA opening on December 1st could impact early decision applications that are typically due by November 1st. Brooke, do you want to share your response for those who may not be looking at the chat?
Yeah, so this same exact thing happened last year, except it was an unexpected delay last year, and the delay kept getting pushed back. So typically those colleges that are requiring that early decision will have families fill out a CSS profile, which is through College Board. It's another kind of way for them to get a snapshot of your financial situation. And then they might just use that information if the FAFSA is still delayed. But typically the deadline for FAFSA completion for those early decision colleges is a little bit later in December, not too much later. So they could push that deadline back, but just know that colleges are aware of the FAFSA delays and they are constantly, after last year, adjusting for that. So most likely they would require you to complete the CSS profile.
Excellent. I'm just scanning through here one more time. Make sure we didn't leave anybody hanging. I think we are good. Just know that somebody did ask about the reciprocity program for Missouri students, and Brooke did put in the chat. It's also on my list to send in the follow-up email, a link to the Midwest Exchange Program. It's like a list of all the universities in the U.S. that offer in-state tuition to our Missouri students. So that will be helpful. And I think that is it. So to put a bow on things, just know, we have one more. How about foreign assets in FAFSA or CSS?
Oh, shoot. I do think, I think there is you do have information on the FAFSA. I don't know much about the CSS profile. I apologize, but I do believe you have to show those on both. Because because there's a conversion table I know on FSA's website for foreign taxes. So I'm assuming you do have to provide that information.
Even if they're non-earning assets, Kim?
Well, dang it. I'm not clear on that. I know we could ask that question. I know Heather at SLU, I could ask her that because actually she's helped me with some of that during a FAFSA event at times. So I could not answer that. I'm not clear. Sorry.
It's okay. No, it's a very specific question. I'm going, and I don't want to mislead either, but I am thinking on the US side, we have to report non-earning assets, correct? So I would think the same for foreign, but again, we should get clarification on that. And if you come to our FAFSA Frenzy, Bonnie, with your kiddo, we can dig a little deeper with you on that if you'd like. And then somebody did ask quickly, what is CSS? And Brooke, I'm going to give that to you.
Yeah, the CSS profile it's an online application. And it costs, actually, it's not free like the FAFSA, that just some colleges or maybe a scholarship uses for gathering information about a family's financial situation. So it kind of goes more in depth than the FAFSA. Typically, it's used by some of the more selective schools or schools that are asking students to complete early decision. So if you're applying early, they really want to see kind of a snapshot of your financial situation before maybe the FAFSA is available. So it's through College Board. I can put a link to that on there, and it's only something a family would do if their college requires it, is when they would do that. Unless you have anything to add to that, Kim, but that's my understanding of it.
Yes, that was great.
Okay. Any other questions for the good of the cause? I know we ran over, and so thank you for all who stayed tight with us. We just wanted to respect everybody's investment on the call and make sure everybody's questions were answered. Of course, as questions arise, we highly encourage you to reach out to your child's college and career counselor. Their information will be in the follow-up email that we will send out as well. Again, that's Brooke Prestage at Howell North and Dustin Bailey at Howell Central, Jen Lowry at Howell High. And just to put a bow on everything, probably the next best step you could do, the best next step you could take is get your FSA ID filed if you have or registered. Get an FSA ID, I guess, and get ready for
Create one.
Create one. Thank you. Thank you. I'm a little hazy with the cold medicine. So FSA ID would be a great next step. Create one of those and get ready for our December FAFSA Frenzy. And I'm going to do it one more time. I just put in the chat a link to a feedback survey. If you all want to click on that before you disconnect from the call, it's painless. It'll take you less than a minute. Just give us some feedback on how we can best support you and how you think tonight's call went. Brooke, is there anything else for the good of the cause?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, we, on behalf of our entire college and career readiness team for the district, Brooke and I thank you so much for being here. Huge thanks to both Robert and Kim for their time this evening and their wealth of knowledge. We could not do what we do without you all, so we are grateful for you. We will be sending out a follow-up email with all the goodies in it, links to slides, everything else, as well as a link to this recording if you ever want to go back and listen again to capture some things you may have missed. Have a wonderful evening.